Hello from inside the camper once again, everyone. Today is Wednesday, March the 28th, 2018, and fair and complete warning from the beginning of this video once again. This is going to be a talking video, so if you like your videos to be short, action-packed, with a lot of motion, a lot of stuff happening, this will probably not be a good video for you, but if you like good, informative videos, please stick around. As you've probably already noticed from the title of this video, I'm making this in response to the question, do you have what it takes to be a traveling artist? And I know a lot of you, if you've been watching this channel for a little while, the thought has probably crossed your mind, that sounds like a really cool way to live. I wonder if I could quit my job, get a camper, get out on the road, and live the adventurous life of the traveling artist. And I know I get that a lot too whenever I answer the question, what do you do for a living? And I tell people, and their eyes light up and they say, oh man, that sounds so awesome, I've always wanted to do that. Well, to be honest with you guys, and you know by watching this channel, that I do try to be really honest with you guys. I try to show the full reality of life. You've seen me angry, you've seen me depressed, you've seen me when my cat died and I was completely in tears. I'd like to try to keep this as reality-based as possible. So, in honor of that, I would like to give you the full reality of what it takes to be a traveling artist on the road. First off, let me clarify what I mean by traveling artist, and I keep saying artist instead of caricaturist because there are many other ways to put your artistic abilities to good use out on the road. You could be a henna artist, you could be a face painter, you could be one of those spray paint artists. There's just tons of ways you could come up with your own way that has not been thought of yet. There's lots of ways to get out there and start working at festivals, fairs, music festivals, street fairs, and regular county fairs, doing tons of different things. So don't just feel like, oh, I can't draw caricatures, so therefore I can't be a traveling artist. So there's lots of other ways to do it. I'm going to split this video into 3 parts. The first part, I'm going to answer 6 knee-jerk reaction questions that I always get as soon as somebody finds out I'm a traveling artist. The second part, I'm going to debunk 2 major myths that people believe about the traveling artist. And the last part is I'm going to go over 5 major drawbacks that might be deal breakers for you when you find out what these are. So at the end of these 5 major drawbacks, if you've still got your hand in the air saying, sign me up, I want to be a traveling artist, well, then the traveling artist lifestyle is for you. First 6 knee-jerk reactions that I get most commonly when people find out I am a traveling artist. Number 1, how do you wash your clothes? Number 2, how do you cook or eat dinner? Number 3, how do you take a shower? Number 4, how do you use the bathroom? Number 5, how do you stay cool or warm? And number 6, how and where do you sleep? Okay, starting with number 1, laundromat. Number 2, plug-in stoves, microwaves, and a lot of delis at like Walmart's, Kroger's, grocery stores, Winn-Dixie's. These are actually very cost-effective and convenient because you can get your cheap dinner at the same time that you're replenishing your supplies. And as far as using the bathroom, going number 1 is pretty easy. You'll find yourself saving a lot of bottles, water bottles, soda bottles, that kind of thing, because they have a nice screw top. You just go empty them out later and then just throw away the bottle. It's a little gross, but it is necessary. And going number 2, well, normally you only have to do that once a day under most circumstances. Only once a day, and you can kind of get a little warning. It's not like it's a surprise. So when you feel the urge coming on, you just find somewhere that's got a toilet. Gas stations have them, grocery stores have them, campgrounds have them. They're all over the place. I've got an emergency toilet underneath my bed here. It's one of those, the little senior ones. That I've had this for almost a year now, and I've never had to use it because, actually it's been over a year. Because, yeah, there's bathrooms everywhere. And on a positive note, I have not had to scrub a toilet in over a year and a half. So there's that positive part. How do I stay cool or warm? Well, the same plug-up, the same power that's supplying these lights, it also supplies electricity to a little air conditioner right here, a little portable air conditioner, or a space heater with a thermostat on it. And how do I sleep? I sleep on a bed. How do you sleep? All right. Now, debunking the two major myths that people believe about the traveling artist. Now, I hate to do this to you guys. I know you're going to be really disappointed once you hear these. Myth number one is that the traveling artist goes all over the country. I'm sorry, that is just not true. At least in most cases, that is not true, especially for somebody that's first starting out. Most traveling artists have a home base, and they only go, at the most, 700 miles in any direction from that home base. Now, the big reason for this is because the further you go, the more that you have to make once you get there to make up traveling cost. Just imagine whatever you're paying for gas right now and add a third to that. That's what you have to pay to tow a camper. It's going to cost more. Also, there's the cost of the festival, and they're on average for a good festival about $75 a day just to set up and sell your wares from the festival. Then you've got to factor in the cost of your camp spot, and if you're real good at finding good costly camp spots, they're still going to be between $15, $25, a lot of times up in the $30s per night to stay at these campsites. So that's going to be a lot of cost. And you've got a short amount of time to make all that back, to get in the black, to make some money that you can keep your business afloat. So it just does not make a whole lot of business sense to try to be in Hollywood, California one weekend, and then be up in Michigan the next weekend, and then be over in Seattle the next weekend. It just doesn't work that way, especially when you're a 1 or 2 man crew and you're first starting out, or even if you've done it for a while. There's still a finite amount that you can produce per day. And you'll get an idea of what that is, and it's not going to be an all over the country thing, guys. I have been traveling on the road for years now, and I still have, the furthest I've gone is in Indiana, central Indiana. I've worked in a total of 11 states, if you count it all up, but I'm going to have to say about 85% of the time, I work in Georgia, Florida, and Tennessee. That's it. I'll venture into the Carolinas, I'll do some in Virginia, and then into Indiana, but it's still a very narrow area, considering the size of all of the United States. The area that I'm working at is still kind of a very narrow area, so it's not as spread out and as venturous as everybody seems to think it is. Also, you have to take into consideration the bureaucracy of things, because a lot of states will keep an eye on festivals, and fairs especially, to make sure that you're paying your sales tax. And some states want you to report that monthly, some want you to report it quarterly, some want you to just fill out some paperwork and send it in with a cashier's check or money order, or some of them want you to create an account online and go in and report how much you've made each month and pay your sales tax on that. So the more states that you work in, the more states that you have to keep track of account numbers and the stuff that you're sending in, and it gets more and more complicated. So to narrow your band of states that you work in just makes more business sense. Now, don't get the idea that just because you're working in a small band of the United States that it's not adventurous. If you keep an eye on flyers and you listen to locals, you're always going to find something fun to go see and something fun to go do. If you watch my channel very much, you'll see that I go and do a lot of things, and all within about 3 to 4 states most of the time. And so it's still adventurous, but it's not nationwide adventurous like a lot of people seem to think that it is. Myth number 2 is that most people seem to believe that becoming a traveling artist will completely do away with monotony and drudgery of regular life. Sorry guys, this is also not true. Now, I totally understand if you guys have a regular 9-to-5 that you're doing all the time, and you're going over the same streets every day on your commute, and you're working in the same office every day, or you're cutting hair, or standing on the same tiles every single day, or you're making sandwiches at the same counter every single day, and after a few years of it, you're just like, oh man, I am so sick of this place, and seeing the same stuff every day. I'm so tired of this. And then you go home and you look on YouTube at this traveling caricaturist that's always in a different city every weekend, and you think, oh, that's the life. If I was to do that, there would be no more drudgery. There would be no more monotony. I'd be in a different place every week. Well, sorry to break it to you guys. Even as a traveling artist, you're going to have drudgery. You're going to have monotony. Look at this wall behind me. I sleep in this camper every single night. I got to sweep this floor on a regular basis. I got to wash these here dishes on a regular basis. And you know what? Every festival that I go to, I have to set up the same booth with the same AstroTurf and the same tent, and I'm driving the same truck. There is monotony in every job. Now, there's less of it as a caricaturist, but it is still there. And you know what? You've probably noticed, too, that sometimes when I come into a new city, I'll say, this is my third time doing this festival. This is my fourth time doing this festival, and or this fair. And you know what? By about the fourth year, when you have spent 10 days straight in a certain city, and you've done that 4 years in a row, that comes up to like over a month that you've spent in that city. And yeah, even though it was split up by years, it's still a full month. And it does start getting a little old. Maybe that's somebody that's just so used to rambling around that, you know, here I am again in this city. I was just here last year. This is getting boring. Maybe that sounds a little odd to you guys, but it's still there. You know, you come into the fairgrounds and you set up in your exact same slot that you did last year and the year before, and the feeling of drudgery still comes back, and it's always going to be there. Now, it's less for the traveling caricaturist, but don't think it gets rid of it entirely. It's still going to be there. Are you still with me? Are you still interested in being a traveling artist? Well, maybe not after this. Now we're getting into the 5 major drawbacks of being the traveling artist. Number 1 is the learning curve. Some of you might have a little something to start with. Maybe you've done a bunch of road trips or some camping trips and you've got something to start with, but it's only going to get you so far. There's a big difference between a weekend trip, a little road trip, and living on the road full time. Big difference. Let me give you a few of the things that you're going to have to learn, and it's going to be a rocky time learning these things. Number 1 is going to be towing a camper. You're going to have to learn how to work the wiring harness, get the thing hooked up to be able to make wide turns. And hardest part, and some people that I've known that still tow campers and have been for years have not learned this, and that is backing the camper into a space without jackknifing it. I can do it. It took me actually about a year of screwing up and pulling forward and backing up and pulling forward and backing up before I got to where I'm comfortable and I can get it on the second or third try now. I can do it now. Some people never get it. Also, how handy are you? Are you the type that as soon as something breaks, the first thing you want to do is go run to the phone and call the landlord or call a plumber or call a repairman of some kind? Oh, come fix this for me. My air conditioner stopped working. Oh, come fix this for me. The bathtub won't drain anymore. And you do that without even first at least trying to do it on your own. This might be a problem because when you're out on the road, you're going to be using a lot of camper stuff, a lot of Coleman stuff, and this stuff is not made with the full-time on-the-road artist in mind. This stuff was made with the weekend camper in mind. And so when you're taking this stuff and using it constantly all the time, it's going to start falling apart. Your chairs are going to start falling apart, your tables, your cots, your cooking equipment, a lot of this stuff is going to start falling apart, and it's up to you to keep it up and running because it's just not cost effective to try and replace it and replace it and replace it all the time. You're going to have to be at least a little handy. And as far as the vehicle that keeps you going from one venue to the other, you're going to have to at least know how to change tires, change a battery, an alternator, a starter, fan belt, just do basic repairs. You're going to have to be able, and not the real complicated stuff. I understand that stuff you might want to take it to a repair shop. But you're going to have to be able to do basic maintenance. And if you're the kind that's never gotten grease under your fingernails, and you just don't ever get your hands dirty, and you don't know which end of a power drill is the right side to pull the trigger on, you're going to have a problem. You're out here on the road, you're going to have to be at least a little bit handy. Also, when you're starting off, and you're trying to make out your schedule, and you get online and you do your homework. You get in there, you do the searches, you check the attendance, you make sure this is a festival that's got some legs, it's been going for a while, they've got a good website, you call the organizers, and everything looks like it's going to be good. But you get out to the festival, take it from me, somebody that's been through it, for a festival, even though it looks good on paper, untested festivals that you've never worked before, you can count on at least 1 out of every 3 completely bombing out. You're going to lose money at them. And all the reasons that a festival can fail is immense. There's a lot of things that go into it. They started charging admission. They moved locations. They changed weekends. It starts raining. They give you a location that is way off the beaten path and nobody knows where you are. Lots of things go into it, but when you're first starting out, 1 out of every 3 is going to fail, completely bomb. And there is going to be that point, at some point, that you get 3 in a row that bomb out, and you've lost money 3 weeks in a row. You're going to be broke, you're going to be scared, you're going to be hungry, you're not going to know what to do, you feel like the rug is just pulled out from under you, and you're going to be living off of ramen noodles. I've been through this more than once, actually. And they don't make the phrase starving artist for nothing. Sometimes you're going to have to live through these scary times. There was one time I was so hungry that I was driving my truck to a new location or something, and a rabbit ran across the road, and I was like, oh, rabbit. But then the thought actually crossed my mind, I kind of wish I had hit that rabbit. Because if I had, I'd have been able to get out, go get its dead carcass, skin it, and go cook it up and have some fresh meat. That's how hungry I was. And let's just be honest, you guys, unless you're starting with thousands of dollars, but if you are an artist, let's just be honest, you're not going to be starting off with a huge cushion. You're just going to start off at the most with a few $1,000s, enough to buy your tent, to buy your way into a few festivals, and to get a small camper if you're lucky. Starting off, I started off staying actually in the tent, in the festival grounds, and just zipped it up and didn't tell anybody I was sleeping in there. I did that for a while. If you're first starting out, sometimes you got to do these things. But you're probably not starting off with a big cushion, and you're going to go through some scary times. That's just the reality of it. Also, part of the learning curve is this. You can't have a whole lot of hang-ups when it comes to going number 2 in other bathrooms or taking showers in other bathrooms. Because you're going to be using a different bathroom every other day. You're going to be using a different shower every other weekend. And if you're the type that absolutely has to go home to your own apartment bathroom or your own house bathroom, and that's the only place that you can go number 2, you're going to have a hard time out on the road. And when it comes to taking showers, I hate to break it to you guys, but these shower houses where you're in a stall and there's another shower and another stall next to you, sometimes there's going to be other people in those other stalls taking a shower at the same time you are, and they're not always quiet. I don't know why. It irks me to no end when this happens, but they make weird noises. I don't know what they're doing over there, but they're doing their slappy, lathery thing, and they're going, I don't know why. You would think it would be common courtesy to stay quiet in the uncomfortable situation of being naked that close to another person, but not a lot of people got that memo, and you're going to be hearing noises from strangers naked just a few feet away, and if that is enough to make you clench up and you just can't handle it, you're not going to have a good time out on the road as a traveling artist. Are you still with me? Do you still want to be a traveling artist? Now, that was just the first. That was just number 1 of the 5 major drawbacks, and this is a learning curve, so just keep that in mind. This is a curve, so as all learning curves are, it will get better over time. After you have got your list of festivals that have proven themselves to work for you, and you've gotten better at being handy, and you've gotten better at towing the camper, you know what? After a few years, you will start getting the hang of it, and the scary times will be less often, and you'll be able to do all this other stuff with more ease, but there is a very rocky learning curve with all of these things. Okay, number 2, space. You are going to be very, very limited on your space. Now, if you're the type of person that really likes a good wide open area with your nice big kitchen that's got the island in the middle and the pans hanging from the ceiling, and you've got a nice big living room where you can have friends over to have a little dinner party on Sunday nights, or you want to be able to just go out to a workbench in the garage and dump out a model and do a little project on the weekends, you're not going to be able to do that stuff anymore. Your space is going to... I am living in a 10-foot camper. Your space is very limited, and all the workspace that you have here has to have more than one purpose. You're going to have to use it for something, then clean that off and store it away before you can put the laptop there and use it for that. So you're not going to be able to entertain guests anymore. You're not going to be able to just do stuff for fun. Everything is going to be a few steps harder. Just taking a shower. If I was to use my indoor shower here, if you have a house or an apartment, all you got to do is draw back the curtain, step in, and start the shower. But for me, I've got to make space right here by folding the mattress back. I've got to go fill up the tank. I've got to get my water heater in place. I have to make sure it has a charge, and I have to make sure it's got some propane in it. And then I'm finally ready to take the shower. And then after the shower is done, I've got to clean all that up and set the bed back out. That's just one thing. That goes for cooking as well. If I want to cook, I've got to clear a space for cooking. I've got to get all the supplies out. They're not just sitting on the counter. I've got to get it all out, use it, clean it, put it all back into its spot. Space efficiency is the key here to keeping and utilizing a very small camper for living in. And you're not going to be able to entertain anymore, and everything is going to be a few steps harder. Number 3, the weather. The weather affects you, and you feel it. When your workspace is a little 10 by 10 that can be crushed easily by a rogue wind gust, and you're inside of a 10-foot camper that's just supported by tires, you feel it. Let me tell you, if you're in one of these situations where there's a torrential downpour, a lightning storm, a little windstorm, or a tornado that passes a few miles away, you might not even notice these things if you were in a house or an apartment, but in a camper like this, it feels like there's a giant out there with both hands on the side of your living space just going, aren't you just afraid you're going to die tonight? It's very scary, and it affects your money. It affects your money a lot more than a lot of other jobs because, like I said, your workspace is a 10 by 10 that can be crushed easily. Now, you can weigh it down and anchor it down and lower it down, and a lot of times that will keep it where it's safe, where it'll survive a lot of windstorms and a lot of rain. Of the nearly 4 years that I have done this, I've lost one tent due to weather. Most of the other times that I lost tents, it was just because they wore out. I set them up and took them down so many times. Eventually, the work strain on the metal joints, they crack after a while. So, but on a positive note, you are mobile. So if an evacuation notice sounds, you're going to be one of the first people to get your entire living space out of the area because you're just so used to mobilizing that fast. And you can follow good weather. You can go down to the south during the cold season, and you can go way up north during the hot season. And I do that. So you can kind of be the retiree snowbird. But the weather is still very, very scary as a traveling artist, and you're going to feel the weather. It's going to affect you. All right, number 4. Are you really badly affected by loneliness? Does it make you really depressed? Well, that might be a problem because you're going to be on the road, and if you're on the road, you're not in your hometown. That means you're not going to be running into high school buddies. You're not going to have your church family there that you see every weekend. You're not even going to have your actual family there most of the time. You're going to be out in the wind, and you're going to be lonely. And, you know, for some of us, like myself, a little solitude is a good thing. I kind of enjoy that. If you're that type of person that doesn't mind that, good on you. But if loneliness really gets you guys depressed, it's going to be a problem. I mean, I just recently celebrated a birthday. And my entire birthday, I did not see a single familiar face the entire day. I had to make my own cake and everything. And I handled it fine. Because I had a lot of well-wishers sending me messages on Facebook. So I had phone calls, and that was enough to get me through. I was happy with that. And if you're the type that can go fine on that, good on you. And also, this is another thing that is affected by the curve. Because you're going to be using those same festivals and fairs that have proven themselves year in and year out. And after about 4 years, other vendors are going to be like, hey, I remember you from last year. Hey, you want to go get breakfast together? And you'll start making friends. And these things, they get better over time. But at least starting out, you're going to be alone a lot. And if that's something that just terrifies you and makes you really depressed and you can't stand the thought of it, you're going to have to think about that part. This is it. This is the last one, number 5. And number 5 is police officers, cops, the fuzz, whatever you want to call them. You're going to be spending a lot of time behind the wheel now. You're going to be putting in a lot of miles. That's just going to be part of your job now. And you're going to be going through a lot of states. And a lot of those states you are going to have out-of-state tags, and you're going to be in unfamiliar territory, which means you are going to be talking to a lot of cops. Even somebody that's really experienced with being on the road like me, and I have developed a sense for keeping an eye on the locals to make sure I slow down when they slow down, or try to notice the speed traps. Even I have to talk to the cops on average of about once a month. It's just going to happen. And if you're the type that, I know that cops are intimidating. I don't think they seem to realize just how much anxiety they induce when they pull you over. Your hands are shaking, and they're just, oh, why are your hands shaking? Should I have to look through your vehicle? They start asking these questions. They're scary. They don't seem to realize how scary they are, but they are scary. And with those out-of-state tags, and let me explain what I'm talking about there. They watch you when you have the out-of-state tags because they know you're there from somewhere else, so you're going to go back home, and you're not going to come all the way back to contest the ticket. So they know they can get every penny out of you that they write on the ticket. So they want that out-of-state money. So they're going to watch you, and you can be the most careful driver in the world, but you are still going to have to talk to the cops a lot because you are human, and you have a little thing called human error. And you're not going to notice every camera. You're not going to notice every speed trap. You're not going to even notice like these weird intersections where you're supposed to only come in a parking lot one way, or you're not supposed to make a U-turn somewhere, or this road looks like a one-way and you didn't realize it. You went, oh, can't do that, and you back up and turn around. Ooh, light's coming on. You're a human. You're going to have human error. The cops are going to be watching you. You're going to have to talk to the cops a lot, and it's scary. You've got to think about that. Now, the best thing that I can recommend in these situations are have your paperwork in order, keep your hands on the wheel and in sight, be polite and be compliant, and if you feel like you're being mistreated, don't confront it right there at that time. Just get their name and badge number, maybe a little video, and then make a complaint later. Like that's going to do any good, honestly. I mean, cops defend each other even when they're wrong, let's just be honest. But that's just going to be a fact of life now. You're going to have to talk to cops a lot. And if you're the type that is just throws up anxiety, can't stand cops, they're just really scary, that's going to be a problem for you because you're going to have to talk to them a lot. Now, even with the once a month that I have to talk to cops, I've gotten a few speeding tickets. I've never been thrown up against a car. I've never had my vehicle searched. I've never had a truly terrible experience. And that is, like I said, because you always have to say, I'm very sorry, officer, I didn't realize that. I will get that taillight fixed. I will make sure and always slow down here. I'm very, very sorry. And if you're polite to them and you try to make their day easier because they have hard days too, then they will appreciate that. And a lot of times they'll return the favor and they might let you off with a warning, but you are out of state. So keep that in mind. And keep it in mind that you will have to talk to cops. A lot. So there you are. That's number 5. Okay, now the recap. Myth number 1. Traveling artists go all over the country. That turns out not to be true. Myth number 2. Becoming a traveling artist will completely get rid of monotony and drudgery. That also turns out not to be true. Drawback number 1 is the learning curve. You're going to have a very rocky learning curve for the first few years, and sometimes you're going to be scared, broke, hungry, and out in the cold. And drawback number 2, you will no longer have a lot of space. You're not going to be able to entertain anymore, and everything is going to be a few steps harder. Drawback number 3 is the weather. You will feel the weather, and it will affect you a lot more. And drawback number 4, loneliness. You are going to be alone, at least for the first few years. It's going to be there. You're going to be very lonely. And drawback number 5, you're going to have to talk to the cops a lot more on average than you would with a regular job. So, that is all 5 drawbacks and both myths debunked. Now, if you want to see all the advantages of being a traveling artist, just watch all my other videos. I go over that a lot. But here, on this video, I have given you the full reality of all the drawbacks and all the challenges of being a traveling artist. And at the end of this video, if you still are gung-ho and you really want to become a traveling artist, it's for you. Have at it. I love you guys, and I will see you again in the next video.